Here we are. I've gone live. Why have I gone live a couple of minutes early? Because we're already having a decent conversation. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. He's gone. He's gone and left that alien fly thing in the background, whatever it is.
You can't afford us 2 minutes early, Gary.
Yeah, but don't worry, because the chair will pay it off. The chair will pay it off.
Actually, there's a story about the chair.
Oh, there's a story. Oh, go on.
Yeah,
tell
later
us
on. Carry on. Carry on.
I need a bit of camera angle. Yeah.
You better. Well, where have we just gone? We've just gone to retrospective. Before we started, we've gone to retrospective CE marks for DJI equipment. I don't think that can happen. I really don't understand because it can't. Well, can't happen. We'll name another product that's been retrospectively CE marked.
Well, it depends. See, I think they can. I think CE, yes. I think FCC, this whole American thing, no chance with anyone doing it. But potentially CE, yes, because a CE mark, if it follows the existing situation, it will be self-compliance. And we all know how well self-compliance works if you follow the VW emissions scandal. But that's what the EU likes, so we're going to go that way. So it'll be... you will self-declare that your aircraft is legit. Not that I would say DJI, for instance, would lie. Then they're not going to do that. I just mean it will be a self-declaration. And there was nothing really in there that they couldn't achieve in a firmware update. From an EU point of view, many of the models today will fall under C1, C2, or C3. They just don't have the sticker. The only big obstacle is the remote ID standard. And if it does become an open standard, they can just flash a firmware update, the aircraft's capable, and game on.
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I think might be a niggle is a slow speed selector. So you're going to have to have a switch that you can physically press for slow.
Most of them have that. It's called tripod mode on most of the aircraft. The Mavic 2 has it.
And I think it's got to be a physical switch.
Yeah, it is a physical switch. It's on the remote. If you take on the Mavic 2, you've got normal mode and tripod mode. And tripod mode reduces the speed to something like 4 meters a second. And it's the one that has the side object avoidance sensors and everything in action. So most of the models have a switch on the remote that they could use or repurpose even.
Yes, they could just flash the firmware, slow it down to 7 miles, just under 7 miles an hour.
Check on the Mavic 2. I'll tell you what it's tripod mode on the Mavic 2. So if you look on the side, there's the physical switch. Is it going to focus? There it is. So you've got sport mode, P mode, which is the normal flight mode, and T for tripod mode. And tripod mode is heavily limited.
They just need to do the flash, don't they, and go C2 compliant. What was really interesting, though, today, there was a tweet from North Yorkshire Police about complaints of a Mavic Mini being flown in a urban area doing commercial work. And people were thinking they don't need their permission. You don't need anything with it.
Yes.
Well, I think we've seen that, haven't we, ever since the drone license come out, or not it's not a license, but the requirement to register. There was always this confusion that, I'm registered, I can do what I want. And this was always the danger of them introducing drone registration in the UK, is because people think, you got to do something to become a commercial operator. You got to get a license. I got a license, I registered. Who you registered with? CAA. Right, okay. That's the danger of a situation like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting. Hi, Louis.
He's home.
Is he home?
Is he home?
Is he home?
Yeah, guys.
You're muted, Gary.
It's either that or he missed his back. He missed home so much. He got some paneling in and put it in the hotel room.
It's a cardboard.
Yeah, he's made a set. And he's like, well, welcome home, Louis. That's excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, guys. So finally made it. With all the COVID restrictions and all the COVID bullshit finally made it.
Well, that's my bet lost of him getting stuck in Brazil and kidnapped. So
we don't know, do we?
How much did you pay for that, Ian? How much did you pay those guys?
Don't get me started.
Where's your kick, though? Where's all your kit? Is that back as well, or is that stuck?
Don't get me started.
That's it impounded there.
So, for those of you that have missed out, dear viewer, Louis has spent a wonderful nearly 8 weeks in Brazil where you've not done any flying and all your kit is still there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Shame, man. Shame. So, have you come home? You're going to take the photos and you turn around and go back again, or are you going to give this job to somebody else now?
No. We have to do it. We have contractual obligations, and fortunately, these delays are not attributed to anyone, so it is completely acceptable. So that's the good thing.
Oh, fair play. But you must be very relieved to be back in Portugal.
No, come on. The Brazilian guys are quite aware of the challenge that is to get any kind of equipment in Brazil. So, yeah, the guys just joked me, welcome to Brazil. See how things are done here. So that's how things are done there. Come on, it's their option. It's their option as a country to be strict, but with this COVID thing, it makes things quite a bit more challenging because the customs guys are some of them are working remotely or just some days of the week, so it all adds up to stuff. But it's all okay.
I'm sure Elton John made a song that Louis is flying tonight on a plane. I can see the red tail lights heading for Brazil in the background, Louis.
I might have to return there. I was just until a few hours ago speaking with the guys there. So we've made a severe advancement on the paper trail. So things are getting better.
I just got notification. This stream has been blocked due to a copyright claim by Elton John.
Oh,
no. Well, for such a poor impression, even YouTube's not clever enough to know what he's talking about there, even though you mentioned Elton John. So that's fine. We'll get away with that. Now, Lou, we were just talking about. We started early because the chaps were already talking sense. Wow, nonsense. But retrospective CE markings for DJI kit. That's where we were at. I don't.
Have you guys looked at AliExpress? I think they're selling some stickers to put on whatever drone you have. They have several sizes. So Bruce is covered. We'll also get a tiny one for his smaller drones. And Ian will get a big one for his big drones. And everybody's covered. Just look for C markings on AliExpress, and a pack of 100 costs 25 cents.
Yeah, I don't see it can happen. Ian thinks it can happen, but what I thought when I saw that was, oh my word, DJI's alerting the people that trouble may be ahead, and either get your pitchforks out and be angry, or we'll try and make them compliant. It's just one little battle, I think, that's coming. But Ian's going to disagree with me. And someone Rev B in the comments says, "How about the Mavic Pro?"
The Mavic Pro
Ian.
one, I don't think will ever get retrospectively done.
Yeah, if you take it from a technical standpoint, pretty much every aircraft back to the Phantom 3 could. But how far do they go back? This is a game of where did DJI put the development cost? Within Europe, there really was nothing scary in those regulations. Whilst we don't agree with the bits of it, it was fairly technically straightforward. open source, open standard for remote ID, ASTM standard. The aircraft transmits this stuff already. What people forget is the DJI aircraft are transmitting remote ID now. It's just in a hidden, I'm not going to say encrypted because encrypted isn't the right word, but it's a hidden network that can only be detected by aeroscope and the cheap radio and anything else you've got. If you put a little bit of effort into it, you can pick it up. Okay. DJI, it wouldn't be very hard to tell the SDR radio to throw out these packets of data once every second. That's all they've got it to do. So it's achievable, but it's how far do they spend back? Now, my money was I'm not even sure the Mavic 2 Pro would get it. I think if they would retrospect it, the mini series is screaming out for it. And whatever comes next. I don't know if they'd bother with it.
Ian, just a small question. Aren't you guys leaving EU? Why are you guys concerned with all this nonsense of the EU regulations? You guys are out of it, so just get your own regulations. These are ours. Come on.
What we're going to do, Louis, is we're going to leave, and then we're going to take all your regulations and copy them and make them our own and stand back and go, we're independent now, and we've done it all ourselves because we made the choice to take your regulations, and you didn't force us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Brexit.
And on the remote ID thing, did you see that Patrick's freedom of information request came in from the police in? Let me get the story up for myself. I'll put it in the links. So let's put it in here from Fairfax County because. Dear viewer, if you have to make a freedom of information request, make it to police forces. Don't make it to aviation authorities. Police forces are pretty good at releasing the dirt. And we had heard that there had been a remote ID test in America, and the FBI had shown it to law enforcement agencies, and somebody told us which one of them that was there. So we asked them, and guess what? They told us, yes, we were there. And I will not post information about or otherwise discuss the event on social media. I acknowledge the remote identification of unmanned aircraft for our system rule is under development, and that any discussion of rule must be limited to publicly available information. I will not discuss the US government position, deliberations, investigations, and any other activity involved. It's coming. It's been decided, people. It's been decided. Everybody's pussyfooting around and think it's coming. It's ready to go. I just don't quite know when they're going to drop the American one. Maybe for Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, something like that. But it's coming, and our industry doesn't understand remote ID. I don't know. Over to you. Anyone else?
But our industry does not understand remote ID. Do you know anyone that does except Bruce? Bruce has all the good leaks about FAA remote IDs and all that. So he is the guy, he's the go-to guy for any kind of remote ID stuff. And as he is locked out in a small island or small archipelago down south, for them it's much easier to implement remote ID.
Yeah, they can't get me though. I'm hiding. I'm in hiding, so I'm good. But yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? The video I put up, either the FAA administrator doesn't know what he's talking about, which is quite likely, or he's actually leaked out some of the advanced things about the final rule, because he made a lot of references to altitude, and he said that flying under 100 feet won't require remote ID, drone racing won't require remote ID. And at one stage he says remote ID is intended for aircraft flying above 300 or 400 feet or for business operations. So recreational below 300 feet, by that implication, does not require remote ID. So was he just making stuff up? Was he deliberately lying? Or did he let slip some of the nature of the final rule for remote ID?
And is that a good thing or a bad thing in your point of view?
It'd be a great thing if they're going to say if you're flying recreationally below 300 or 400 feet, you don't need remote ID. That's a great thing. because then the vast majority of model flying activities won't require remote ID. And hey, that gets the hobbyists out of that arena of having to be compliant and all the costs and things. So it would basically save the hobby from that ridiculous burden. And I think that would be the best solution. Whether he is just pulling stuff out of his little bureaucratic bottom, I don't know, but I'm certainly hoping that he let it slip.
No, I think from your description, it seems like something sensible. Did I say this? Something sensible coming from the FAA? Yeah.
Someone's going to lose their job then. If they've said something sensible, use logic, common sense, then they no longer qualify for a job there, do they?
No, I think it might be better for the Americans than it will be for Europeans, according to the way stranger and complicated rules that we have now, or that are going to be in effect sooner rather than later. So, but the thing is, in EU, with all this COVID stuff, I'm not so sure we'll be getting on January 1st, 2021, any kind of change. So I believe we'll have 1 year extra delay regarding all these regulations, because people are too busy with their own life. And even authorities cannot go and start crazy regulations, even pre-announced with the anticipation. It's not going to be easy.
Germany have asked, haven't they, Louis? Hadn't Germany asked for an extension already, off the top of my head? I think Germany have as well, haven't they?
Yeah, if Germany says so, the EU says yes, Mrs. Merkel. So,
but they better, if that's going to be the case, then they better start announcing that, because January's marching out very quickly.
Why? You can announce it on the 5th of January. You just say, oh, by the way, the thing that was supposed to start last week, forget it. Come on.
No, because commercial operations, all right, let's just say you did that, then all your manuals and all the stuff that you had ready for January the 1st would be null and void. You can't have that. People are spending a lot of time preparing for it. You can't. Best thing know now would be a good Christmas present.
You can't, or you shouldn't. That's a big difference.
Oh, yes. Fair enough. I'll give you that. Yes, fair enough. Yeah,
the guys here on this panel that do some manuals and some SORA analysis know that sometimes you have to change your entire SORA manual overnight, right?
They're not being drawn on that. Yeah, well.
But he's muted. He cannot say a thing.
Well, one of these days, these rules will have to change, and as promised on the tin,
we'll have. Come on,
they can't.
Gary.
They can't slide them forever. They can't slide. Uncertainty is not good. Am I being too naive?
Gary, you said about the time scale earlier. Remember the last change the CAA made was like a month before PFCOs were told. They don't give any notice on this stuff half the time because they don't know. And that's the problem, because this will end up being I can't even say the word, but it'll be a governmental change, a policy change. And then all the organizations will pick up the pieces after that. So as Louis says, I can see it being an end of year. Even the time will pass and a week or two later, they'll go, oh, yeah, we're going to delay. Yeah, we're not. They may even just look and see what happens. How many people kick up? How many people really? Does it affect overnight?
Well, I suppose it is winter out there, I suppose. Yeah. Now, all right, let's move along a little bit. I went to an amazing thing from UPDWG, the UAV for Payload Delivery Working Group invited me to a chat, and the chat was about moving past test flights, accelerating a drone-enabled COVID-19 response. and there were people there from all sorts of fancy VC companies and that sort of thing, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And to a man and woman, they said, no, we don't see a business case for delivery drones, which was amazing. And they say, even all this, even the COVID deliveries, or whatever, medical deliveries, they sort of thought it was super niche. And I was quite astounded by the honesty of this group, which is very, 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 very unusual in this industry. And they were the people with the money. I thought it was very interesting.
Did you see in Italy that the police have got a Lamborghini they use for organ deliveries, and they travelled 420k in less than 2 hours or something on the highways with this Lamborghini that they transfer organs around. Apparently, it's more effective than helicopters or anything else. So, what we need are delivery supercars.
Well, and then in London today, they've started rolling out the quite large, autonomous, horribly, vividly green delivery vehicles in Hounslow. So in the city centre, autonomous, on the ground, away we go. And guess what? Instead of taking 1 kilo of stuff, they're taking, I don't know. It's the wrong vehicle for the job, but it's the idea.
I mean, the one that's doing the NHS trials in the UK, the big one, the Mugen, that's going to be flying shortly, that can only carry it's a 2 kilo payload, isn't it, on the Mugens? When you suddenly look at what they actually carry, you go, no, I don't understand now. 2 kilos is a pointless payload in my eyes. Or am I just missing a trick somewhere?
Well, I guess it depends whether that's 2 kilos of blood that you need or whatever. I think you can drill it down to the absolute emergency use case, and then I think all bets are off. But if it is another box of aspirin, then yeah, maybe not. And yeah, so I was astounded that all these VC people said what it was. And I thought, hang on, I can't be at something generated by the UAV industry. I cannot be. But it was. So that was refreshingly honest, I thought. And hopefully they said it was a Zoom or whatever these awful things are, meet. And they said we could have a copy of it to put up on the channel soon. So we'll do that if they hold by that. But yeah. They just shot it down. Boom, don't need it. Bring on other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, well, next. Where should we go next? I was in marketing 90% are under marketing 90% of deliveries under 2 kilos. That's the Amazon model, isn't it? It's the delivering a DVD and that sort of thing. But you just get the lad on the bike to do it.
Don't we now download DVDs? We don't. Does anyone
buy a DVD? Yeah, all right, yeah. Oh, okay, all right.
He's so picky, isn't he? He's a pig.
Yeah.
Mark is a pig. But what about the EasyJet encounter with the drone that weighed 10 kilos, 3 feet from the window of the whatever it was, 737? And did you see Droning On did a video on it, and he showed that if it passed level with the windows, it would have taken out the tailplane as it disappeared down the back of the aircraft.
No, come on. The best one this week was the plane that was landing in Alaska and killed a bear while landing. It was on CNN. Come on, animal rights groups. Come on, we need to do animal crossings in the middle of runways. So we must protect the poor bears.
Was the bear registered?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he had a chip. I don't know if he had a chip.
Yeah, we need mammalian conspicuity. That's what we need.
Mammalian conspicuity. Yeah, but it's, you only have to look at
if you look at the size of a bear, I think it's quite conspicuous. I'm not so sure of the size of bears in New Zealand, but yeah, usually bears.
We don't have bears.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if it had been shaped like a drone, they could have seen it at 300 miles an hour from a mile away. The bears are the wrong shape.
And they'd known how heavy it was as well. That was like, where's this 10 kilos idea come from? It's a foot long and weighs 10 kilos.
It was blue.
10 kilos is a bit larger than the M210, a bit larger than M300, larger than an M600. Oh my God, what the hell was that?
And it was at 8,000 feet.
8,000 feet, yes.
It's a lot
I
of those
think it
big
was one
aircraft
of-
at 8,000 feet in there. So many, I can't remember the last time I didn't see a swarm of aircraft that big at 8,000 feet. They're constantly up there. It's menace.
I mean,
I
to
can
me,
tell you.
they're
Go-
just
go, Mark.
pushing they're just pushing the anti-drone because Christmas is coming. They need to get out there, about flying responsibly. To me, it's just a BS story.
It's
It's
Balpa
just
kicking
flying.
back after my comments last week.
Sorry.
That's
Well,
what
I'm going to apply for a job as an EasyJet pilot because obviously you don't need to be very clever.
No, you need to be super accurate with your
Shut
weight
up!
calculations.
Shut up! I fly EasyJet, and I like them. So shut up. And
Yeah,
the
but look
best
where they've
guys,
got you. They've got you
EasyJet are
marooned
the
in
best.
Brazil.
No. When I fly in Europe, I fly a lot of EasyJet, and those guys are just like the Swiss trains. They run on time. So shut up, Bruce.
I can smell
Get
shilling
yourself
here.
your own EasyJet.
Can we mute
You're
him?
just trying to get on that TV program, aren't you, where the EasyJet pilot people are on? Yeah.
He wants to be there with Stelios, doesn't he?
So,
Yeah.
question: when do we think dash cams will be fitted to airliners?
No,
Well,
the
they
pilots won't have it. They
they
didn't
haven't
want
added
voice
trackers
cockpit
yet.
recording. They're not going to go for dash cams.
We all
It
know
was,
they can't find them when they lose them, so dash cams aren't really going to help that, are they?
I saw years ago, a dash cam for manned aircraft that would detect a manned aircraft, detect sensitive void. I saw it. I've seen it. It was developed, and the guys at Sywell flew it in their twin engine thing, the blades. That's it. And they had the aerobatic aircraft aggressing the twin engine thing on it, and it saw it a lot. And they actually had to dial it back down because it would see birds lifting from fields and give them alerts. It's done more than 10 years ago. It's been done. It's there, but not been fitted yet. No, there we are. Yeah, it's and they need a dash cam pointing at the controls as well, don't they, to see what selections were made, as well as having a black box in the modern world, because then we could see the switch selections on dodgy instance. And we've had that. Was it last week, the helicopter crash, the midair? Maybe that was last week. I don't know, in Malaysia or wherever it was. And there's been a couple of other incidents in America, some more fatalities, and a couple of fatalities here in South Africa. So, yeah, again, another week where we've scored 0, and manned aviation, very, very sadly, has had several successful collisions.
We must try harder.
Okay, Bruce. About that video that it was posted on Facebook of the drone flying on top of a ridge and the planes passing below. What's your take? No GA below 2K?
Yeah, that was definitely. I mean, I want someone to send that to the FAA and issue a please explain. Why are you busy over-regulating drones when manned aviation continues to engage in dangerous practices and without any kind of censure by the look of it?
But just watch. There's dozens of YouTube channels. My son, who'd like to be a bush pilot, watches them, and they're flying dangerously. They wouldn't get away with it in the UK, I don't think. This sort of Kit Fox type size aircraft, and wheels on the river, and flying into canyons, where if you've got a problem, you're not turning back and getting out of it, and off airport landing because this bit fell off and that bit fell off. They would absolutely be grounded, or they certainly have a meeting at the CAA on the 13th floor with no biscuits in the way that they fly. And it's a terrible example being set.
But remember, they've got skin in the game, so they would never do anything dangerous.
Skin in the game. Thank you very much. We can use that one. There we are. Skin in the game.
Come on. My latest challenge has been to fly a citation below the Tagus River Bridge. So I've done it several times, coming from several approaches. So, yeah.
I knew a man who did that.
No skin in the game. No skin in the game involved. Yeah.
I knew a chap called Brian Milton who flew under every bridge of the Thames. Anyway, in a CFM shadow back in the 80s. And he was on breakfast television in the UK. He was like a financial chappie, and they managed to position a couple of cameras on a couple of the bridges for him going under. It was on breakfast TV, but nobody knew at the time who did it. It was Brian Milton. Anyway, but yeah, it's not so hard to fly under there. I think the best one on the Thames was the Hunter going through the Tower Bridge, going through the towers of Tower Bridge. That was good. That was a very good one. What did I want to say? I don't know. Someone help, help, help. I don't know what I wanted to say. Oh, you buggers.
I think. Have you guys noticed the latest rumor that the DJI Mini 2 was supposed to have collision avoidance? I saw a recent, because that's why it is 242 grams instead of 249, and they put it that LED light on in front, just, and those holes for refrigeration are there just to make it lighter. Do you guys have any idea?
I think people are missing, they could have, if you remember, the Spark had a TOF sensor on the front. If we go back to the Spark, it did have that sort of object avoidance. It wasn't the clever object avoidance we're used to today with vision cameras, but it was a, bouncing signal back and forth kind of sensing. I suspect they probably built 3 or 4 versions, and they picked the one that best suited the price and what they felt the spec was. I think if you look, some people may not realize, but the Mavic, its original name is Maverick. There are models out there in the early beta testers that say Maverick on them. Now, DJI couldn't use that because of the bicycle company who makes wheels. I think they're called Maverick, and it is a trademarked name in the EU, so they couldn't use that. There is an Inspire 2 out there I have seen, which has all-round object avoidance sensors, far more sensors on than the current one does. It's not unusual for them to tweak, play with designs and stick stuff on. I think it just comes to the end, isn't it? Well, where does the price settle, and where do they think the feature set is worth it? I'd say there probably is one somewhere in a room with that stuff on, Louis. My bets are yes. There's stuff I've seen that's never hit market. There's one or two things.
Even the collision avoidance and all that, it's quite fun, and having the drone remote beeping at you and saying, "Oh, you're in front of something," or something like that. Do you guys use it? You, Ian, that you're the DJI guy.
No, very rarely. Very, very rarely. If anything, it causes me more problems than it solves, because as soon as you take off near anything, it starts going off. So I inadvertently take off in sport mode because it's automatically disabled in sport mode. So most of the time, it can be a hindrance in standard mode for using it. I think its benefit is return to home. Its benefit is if you were in a situation where you flew out and the aircraft had to return, it kicks in then. However, they also sort of replaced it with a better feature, which was follow its own route home, which Pilot's got and many of the other software's got. And that way it's picking, in theory, if it comes back the way it went out, in theory, it should be fine. However, there are issues with that.
That's something that I proposed on Pilot a couple of years ago, and now it's part of the breadcrumb system.
Yeah. And DJI have had it for it was introduced in the Phantom 4. But the problem is, though, that's no good if you do a long trip around and then you haven't got enough battery to do that back. So it has to be intelligent enough to know. I remember testing it when it came on a beta firmware and no one told me it was there. And I turned the remote controller off to test what would happen. And the aircraft started heading off in the opposite direction. And once my bottom stopped clenching for a few minutes going, what is going on? I then suddenly realized it was going to where I'd been. But I think I've seen a really good use case for object avoidance on a return to home and an aircraft that avoided crashing into a hill. And it was brilliant. It got us out, it kept coming in, doing that over the hill, came down the other side and went over. I think in everyday flying, I'm not convinced it's that important.
So I was told a nice story about object avoidance on an Inspire 2 as well. So some guys were flying. I'm not going to say where.
Oh, go on.
It was. Well, okay then. They were flying over the Thames, and the aircraft lost its connection to the controller, and so it hadn't returned after a few minutes. There was a bit of a transit time because where is it? They couldn't see it. They lost sight of it. And then this Inspire 2 had started to make its way back. No one had seen it. And it came back and it had come to a hotel in its way. And there was a hotel in its way. And this Inspire 2 had stopped, gone, hang on a minute, something in front of me. It literally was working its way. They started to hear the aircraft and go, what the? And it was working its way around the building to come home. They hadn't set the return to home high enough to go over the top. So it come to the hotel and so it crept its way around, and eventually it came back to them and landed. And they were like, "Oh, okay."
Like Ken says, the battery issues are always a problem. That's why some of the return to home are triggered by, for instance, on the Parrot and Afi, the return to home by battery is if it has enough battery to return to you. Or return to the starting point. Although they changed it a little bit now on the latest update. What's that, Gary? Come on.
I just want to say that this was doing all of that in 2009, and suddenly everybody's invented it. We had return to home breadcrumb trail, return to home if you didn't have enough battery power to complete the flight plan you put into it. What were the other modes? Anyone know what that is? That's an autopilot. Hooray for the
autopilot. Yeah,
we had all of that before, and you just needed this upgrade, this SD card holder to bring it on.
So quick question, Gary. Why is no longer autopilot
ITAR? He foolishly had the idea for this in America, and that meant the idea belonged to him. And this, you've got to remember, back in the day when ITAR was a thing. You know, when 3DR made all their gear in Mexico, for instance.
Yeah.
You know, it was ITAR. That's what killed this project. Also, triple IMU that had been thermally tested as well in a later version. But yeah, no, it was ITAR. ITAR killed the project flat.
And it was not.
Good.
From what I remember of autopilots, it was not also didn't have a very large community like, for instance, Autopilot had.
No,
at the time.
No, but then but this predates.
No, 2009. No,
2006. This project started.
6. Okay.
Yeah, 2006. This is about 2009, I think. I don't know. Let's see if it says somewhere on the board. I don't know what year, but this is what I flew at Farnborough in 2010. So yeah. So, you know, all these things were there, and suddenly they've been reinvented, and it just makes me laugh. I should try and get this going again.
It's not so much an easy problem, that collision avoidance, if you want to do it smartly. For instance, what we've implemented on Autopilot, the breadcrumb trail, it works. It has a limitation of the number of points that it records. So from a certain point, it will not record any more points. So it will leave you somewhat lacking on the resolution and the distance and the kind of flight that you can do. But we at Autopilot, if you go full tilt on sensors like you can do now with collision avoidance and a few other of the new features and scripting, you can easily get a very smart return to home to work. So you just have to do some scripting, and off you go. You don't need the inbuilt one.
Yeah. When Archipilot was a shield running an 18 mega, says Drone 3. Hang on. I'll be with you in a minute. I think I've got one of those here. Let's see what we got. No, that's a 2. Remember, was that a 2? What version was that, Louis, with the GPS on board? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I can't remember.
I don't remember. I just entered the Ardupilot world when the Pixoc came in. I didn't want. I didn't want. It was. I was going to get myself an APM 2.8 or whatever, but then I bit the bullet and paid the enormous cost of US bought and shipped. Especially the shipping was terrible. Of Pixoc shipping from USA was an heavy part of the initial investment.
Yeah, it certainly was. It certainly was. But I mean, there's not a lot of new things under the sun. That's for sure. And whilst everything's got a little bit better, and the flight controllers and the ground control stations and stuff hanging off it are a lot slicker than they were. We're not. Yeah, we're better, but we're not so very
sure. I'm not so sure. Look at the current state of ground control stations of Ardupilot and PX4, the two biggest ones. We've seen great improvements on Q ground control ever since Don Gain took over the helm of the Q ground control. It had a huge bump in development. Mission Planner is more or less the same as it was. Just a few more things here and there, some more patches, some more things. Because Michael Laborn is very close to the dev team. He's part of the dev team. So, and he can develop for it easily. Now we've seen it as a pre-built image for Androids. Yeah, pretty much running on top of an emulation layer. So many things plainly don't work, and good luck if you try to use it on a tablet. Yeah, I did that. Gave up very soon because I could not press most of the controls. And come on, this is a 9-inch tablet, so I imagine that on a small phone. But we don't have a very large evolution of the ground control station. We see some companies, some commercial companies that use both Ardupilot and PX4 that do their own developments on the ground control stations. But most of those developments don't get back to the main projects.
Well, Bruce is just laughing at us because he was well ahead. Look, there's a real ADS-B antenna. I forgot I had that. That's a real one off a really, well, it's not off a really airplanes. It's not been fitted, but that's a real one from Kansas, no less. I forgot I had that. Anyway, moving on.
Probably got blown across in a tornado.
Could have done. Yeah, absolutely could have done. Yeah. No, I think.
Yes,
I think as much as things are new and shiny, they're also not. They're better, but they're not super further ahead of where we were 10 years ago. It's all a lot easier than it was, and I agree. Mission Planner isn't yet super duper. OpenHD. Someone can say, anyone going to mention OpenHD?
Yeah, it's getting there. It's just a complicated mess. I keep meaning to go and buy the hardware to do it, but you got to have Raspberry Pis and you got to have cards, and in the end, it's a lot of messing around. There's some nice work being done, and I think they're laying a path. Yeah. They're laying a path, and then I think if someone then starts building hardware, it could be very nice. And I think let's hope it gets to the stage where someone then is willing to take up the mantle of putting hardware in place, putting that investment in, because that's let's be honest, the investment so far is in people's time. There isn't that much investment, capital outlay on where it's got to today. The problem is the next big one is someone willing to put hardware in place. Louis, it's the same with Ardra isn't it? If you look at the physical cost of Ardra is people's time, Tridge's effort, all of that dev teams. The outlay has come from the partners who put in the hardware to support that as well, isn't it? And that's where the financial cost comes in.
And even OpenHD, it's great. It's getting much easier to put together working. I was in the beginning I was testing when it started, even before it was called OpenHD. That you had to get some of those crazy USB Wi-Fi receivers. I'm not sure. I think that new Raspberry Pi 4 boards could be an interesting thing to have, the compute module, but it lacks the specialized Wi-Fi bit. So, yeah. Again,
someone would have to build, wouldn't they, a radio module that clips into. That would be the way forward, wouldn't it? Like a radio module the Pi clips into, and that's your whole solution, isn't it?
Yeah, but the Pi, it has to be an integrated something that you plug a camera, an HDMI output of a camera, and you plug a self-contained unit and have a special receiver in the ground. It has to be something like that. A Pi is too big for the FPV guys like Bruce and such. So we need something the size of that product that some Chinese company put out. How's that called? 3-letter word from Shenzhen.
DIJ.
With the day. Starts with a D. DJI, the DJI FPV system, the digital
It is
one.
interesting on this remote thing, because I see a lot of people talking about, we've got now, I think I counted about 8 of these ground station units that are off the shelf. We had Healing, we've got the various models that are all the same one, the H16 Pro and the H16, which it's by SkyDroid, but CUAV is selling it. About 5 or 6 different companies are rebadging that and sending it out. And you've got the Healing, which is the lower end of the cost scale, and some of these go up to £10,000. And I think the problem is there enough volume here to really warrant anyone putting a system together like with OpenHD? We've got clearly some nice software. The guys are developing something nice, but is there going to be enough in, CUAV are an ideal company, maybe QPilot, one of these are the kind of company who would step into that space, maybe MRO, and put the hardware together. But is there enough volume in it? That's the question to warrant it.
It's a very tiny market, especially if you're looking at the recreational market. It's and also the commercial market. There's not that much commercial work going on. So it is far too small to. I think DJI are probably the only ones that could commit the resources to make a product specifically designed to do that, because they're amortizing their costs over a huge base of machines and they've got all the previous technology to draw on. But starting from scratch, I think we've seen with the SharkBite, if you start from scratch, and they're not really starting from scratch, they were using an existing product and bringing that forward. It's still an awfully big journey. And I see some in the comments put Orca is working on their own HD system. Well, they've announced that they're going to work on an HD system, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. Because some time ago, I think, if you watch my channel, you may remember, I looked at doing a bedded analog system, which is really what SharkBite has done. They've taken an analog camera and they've made it so you're using digital, but I was just going to just broaden the bandwidth, use 2 FPV channels using analog, because you can still just put lots of bandwidth on analog and just get a bit of high resolution analog image, which is effectively what they've ended up with SharkBite. And even that, it's pretty daunting, because there's lots of chips out there, but they're all designed for mobile phones and things, and you have to make them work. Unless you can spin your own silicon, or unless you want to use something like an FPGA, which then means you've got massive heat and you've got massive power requirements. And even then, developing the firmware for an FPGA is not a trivial task. And if you want to do something like simple, an H.264 encoder or H.265 encoder, unless you want to write that from scratch, you're going to have to license it and pay for every unit you ship, and it gets expensive and complicated. And I just think that we'll be stuck with DJI, possibly the SharkBite and analog for quite some time.
I thought you were going to call it SharkBite then. It sounded like the way your voice was going, and it was.
I just saved it.
It's an interesting, because if we look, actually, for those of us who are the technical side, if you dig in, like I've been following the DJI stuff for a long time, and I've seen that development of OcuSync and Lightbridge from the very beginning, which was FPGA based, the very early ones were, and then they transitioned to custom hardware. And I've seen DJI spend 7 years going through that transition. People keep saying, "Oh, when's the version 2 FPV?" FPV is version 8. FPV is the ground of 8 years of digital FPV systems DJI have created. It took them 8 years to get to what we have today. It isn't a version 1; it's the 8th incarnation of it. And if we've got Fatshark, who are clearly struggling, it's here. I have it in my hands. I've tested it. I've flown it. I'm probably going to review it. I've not got a lot. My biggest worry is I've not got a lot of good to say about it, and I don't want to necessarily review a product that I'm going to sit there and say bad things about continuously, because I'm going to get called a shill and I'm going to get called biased. But the reality is, it's like releasing. It's a bit like when a company releases the best thing and then they release. I tell you what's interesting. It's like the Xbox. The new Xboxes have just come out, and you've got 2 versions. And once you've seen the second one, the first one is always going to be a disappointment, and that is the problem. DJI hit it so good out the park, but it's an interesting question, because you've got Hurling, which is only £700-800, and I see a lot of criticism of that system. I've done a lot of videos on it, and what people have to remember is, to get it at that cost is a miracle. It is the only ground station at that price point. Everything else is dearer. Everything else costs more. And it's a really hard market to put any product like this in volume. It really is. And volume that is going to return in investment. And at the end of the day, why are people going to, we want great products. We want people to invest. The likes of QPilot, CUAV, all of these companies that do good hardware. But if they're not going to get that investment back, and this is the problem with SharkBite, I don't see where the return is on this. I just don't see why. It's
right. I think I mentioned last week. I think the only way that SharkBite is going to survive, and this is I'm going to do a video on this, is to do what they did with the FlySky 9X transmitter, which they produced a transmitter, great hardware, the software sucked. It was really bad software. So people came in and they made ER9X, the open source software for it. I think if SharkBite or Fatshark was smart, they would say, we're going to release the specs of the hardware. We're going to invite the community to create the firmware, because our firmware is not as good as it could be. There's a lot of potential in the hardware, but the firmware is letting it down. Let the community write the firmware for this. Make it basically like the equivalent of OpenTX. And then they will have countless people out there working for free, producing a better system. And when people have invested time and effort on their own, they will favor the system. Even if there's something technically better, the fact that they own part of the system by having developed or worked, or the software is owned by the community, that'll make a big difference.
The problem is there, and it's that chip there. And this is the problem here. This device is not open source. But everyone goes, Fatshark. It is still IP. That chip, company called DiviMath, make the hardware that this uses, and that's the bottleneck here. And to be fair to him, I've spoke to their dev guys. He's been very helpful. I've spoke to him a few times. I actually spoke to him when we were trying to get DJI support in ArdraPilot, which Alex has done an amazing job of. I was grateful to be able to help him out a little bit and lend him my kit. And I spoke to these guys as well to give support for both. But unless they're willing to let that IP go out there, and sell the chips and let everyone else have access to it. This is the roadblock now. And it's not that they're not trying to improve. They're working really hard on this, but it feels like it's a very, very small team, very, very small team, and their backs up against the wall. And, you know, we're months down the line and we've still got 3 or 4 OSD items, just to give you an idea of where we're at with it. You know, it's has a habit of trying to cook itself on the table. And
it's a feature.
It's a feature, and it doesn't always want to actually work, which is extremely frustrating when you can buy a product that you open the box and it's got scented foam in it, and then you take out the goggles out and you plug it in and it works. And that
you've got to activate it, which is
you got to
in the
activate
backside.
Yeah, but
that's my big beef with DJI.
You have got to activate it.
You have to activate the Osmo camera.
You've
for the open source. There's an option for the open source, and people, it's right in front of all of us. Just take a cell phone and repurpose the cell phone. It's quite easy. It already has most of the, not this one, but most of the Android type phones have quite a good chip. So processing can be done in the air. Some of them have good cameras. You don't need the battery, or you can keep the battery. Just fit it on a different type of enclosure, and you have a good way of sending down imagery and a lot of other things down the air.
Yeah, but there's huge latency, and you get lots of, you look at anything that comes over a mobile network, it's all crap in terms of compared to real FPV digital video. It's like the Open HD. It's probably even worse than Open HD. It's not that good.
No, Bruce, you're not looking at it from the hardware is there. The hardware is there and has the capabilities of doing much better than what you see with all the latency. If you
what band are you going to use it on?
You just put the repurposed. Come on, repurposed cell phone can be put in less than one pack of smokes.
But you're going to have to use a network provider and pay for traffic and things like that, and you're going to have the latency of having to go through the network.
Why do you need the mobile network? It could be an option. Those phones, most of them have good Wi-Fi capabilities, so you can push that.
A few hundred meters.
It's only a problem of developing the software on the right direction. You don't need for it to be 4G, 5G, whatever G you want. You just focus on one of the network stacks that it has inside. It has most of them have good Wi-Fi chipsets. It's just a matter of poking around. So, for instance, and not saying bad things about OpenHD, which is a great project, by the way. The thing is, the community should gather around one cell phone that would be easily disassembled, so you can repurpose an existing cell phone from anywhere and repurpose the phone. You would have a good camera, or a good camera. You would have the encoder, and you have the way to shoot that the video stream down to the ground. But you don't need the screen. Come on, so many things that you can throw away from a cell phone, and it's just a matter of repurposing the hardware.
Yeah, but it's such a cumbersome big piece of hardware, even a small cell phone. It's come on,
Bruce. You take the screen and the battery. You don't need battery for 2 days. You just need a battery that lasts 4 hours. So it's 1/4 of the size of the battery. You don't need the screen. So the cell phone itself, it's just a piece of this. Okay.
Well, why wouldn't at the end of the day, why wouldn't I? I mean, as a poll, I mean, all of us, I don't fly FPV much at all. My lad does. He might like a digital system. I don't know that Ian flies racing size digital FPV, etc. So in a small pool of small contestants, will be faff around converting a mobile phone.
It's
And
not
if we really
only
wanted to
for
do it, where do
FPV.
we?
Would not
But
be
where do
only
we?
for
Can we just
FPV.
buy the DJI stuff? I
And in
don't-
12 months' time, you can't buy that phone anyway because there's a new model out, so you're going to start all over again.
I hear
Come
what you're
on.
saying. I hear what you're
Not
saying.
exactly that. You know that, Bruce. Not exactly
I hear
that.
what you're saying about the technology, and you'll probably find there's single board versions of it all ready to go with the camera and able to do that without the trappings of a phone connected to them. But it is such a tiny market. Is it worth the faff? It's such a great hobbyist.
Gary, tell me something. In 2006, when you bought that Autopilot, was it a big market?
True, okay. But FPV was already a thing and becoming a bigger thing. That would have been back when I can't remember the
You're
name
only
of
thinking on
RP.
FPV. You're only
Okay,
thinking
yeah.
on FPV. I'm more thinking on an open source image transmission system.
Okay, yes.
Preferably low latency to the ground. And things like OpenHD are a good way on towards that direction. But the hardware is not easy to come. Come on, you have to get the Raspberry Pi. You have to know how to program the Raspberry Pi. Although you can just download the image and then you're done. But it's too many moving parts to get it right. While with the insides of a phone would be much easier. That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And Drone 3D says, Gary, the market's big enough for DJI to get into it. But as Ian's pointed out, they've been mucking around with that sort of thing for a while. They just spun it out, didn't they? Now, I don't think it was a huge leap for them to create that system.
No, it gives some people some time, some money, and see what you can do in it. Pet project on the side, even for a development team, but it is. I think the biggest thing people forget is this wasn't a version 1. This is a version 8, and there's many years of people's money, investment, all those Phantoms, all those Mavics, all those Sparks sold. It has all got them. And look, there are two things that have got DJI to where they are today. They very early invested in their own camera technology because they were forced to, because GoPro did them over on one. And number two, it should also be added, GoPro also did 3DR over on one as well. They were good at doing that. And secondly, they invested in their own radio technology. And okay, their early stuff was terrible. Phantom 2 Vision Plus users did get pretty screwed over with some of those aircraft because there were some changes that it didn't really work very well. But if you remember back then, there really wasn't good, cheap wireless HDMI technology. You couldn't even buy wireless HDMI for your home. I remember when we all had, FPV is based off those wireless video transmitters that you could buy for your house. Do you remember them? They had the little aerials. You'd plug in your RCA connectors and plug it into your telly and send the picture to your bedroom upstairs. It's the same wireless video tech that was used for FPV.
No. You had, come on, you already had good HDMI professional
pro, but not at the price DJI were integrating it into the craft, Louis. Overnight they were transmitting video 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers. We weren't seeing that as easily available. When I was in the CCTV industry, I'd have died to have that stuff. I was struggling to get HD video from one side of the car park to the other at times. But and it took many years. But then suddenly, I've got a Mavic Mini, an aircraft the size of that, which can do 10 kilometers range. It's incredible,
I'm looking for one of those very early. I've got one of those here. Yeah,
Vision
no,
Plus
I can remember.
Transmitters. Yeah,
I can remember. We could have remember the time before GoPros, the time before, as you say, HD video links, time before all these things that we all now take for granted. But FPV was still a thing.
There's a lot of noise. Is there going to be a version 2? That's all I get. That's all you've got on the internet at the moment. Is there a version 2 coming? Is there a version 2? Will there be an update? Yes. Will DJI release an update to a product line? Yes. that's inevitable. Will there be one this year? Maybe, maybe not. But it's nothing I would be concerned about if I was going to buy today. I'd just buy the existing system.
FX no mentioning blue SUS DJI. Well, that's never. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, those two can't actually.
can't actually happen. But what I will say is I received some interesting intelligence from on the side. Maybe somebody that had watched some of the things we chatted about. But goings on at a particularly one of those blue SUS contractors who they believe sold the rights to the chip set makers and are running with some debt. So it will be interesting to see which one of those 5 golden chosen companies continues to actually manage to service that market. Skydio are hiring people left, right, and centre. Another one of them, I can't remember the other one, got themselves $7 million in investment, and they're just a 15-person company as far as we can work out. So there's lots and lots of.
Come on, Gary.
Right.
We've seen some drone companies getting large 100 and something millions investment.
114, yes.
And what? Where are they now? Oh, they have a website.
3D renderings are not cheap.
That paid for the Christmas party, though, didn't it? That was the problem with that 100 million.
And the monkey video.
And the water
monkey
feature and
video.
the
No, the monkey video.
And the monkey video.
I heard a rumor that the contract those monkeys were on was 10 million ahead, and even if they weren't in the video, they still got paid. That's the rumor I heard.
Yeah, I'm sure that was probably.
Are we sure that wasn't done actually by who's the actor that does all of the animal stuff?
Yes,
you know who I'm going. Yeah. He does everything. Lord of the Rings, Gollum, all of that. Are we sure it wasn't him? They had to pay him to actually act out the actors for that advert.
Do you know that single advert will mean nothing to an awful lot of people. That really will.
Yeah.
I mean, it's completely meaningless. It was that came and went in a month or so.
Come on. Just as the work item for our viewers, go to YouTube and look for drone monkey video.
Chris Anderson,
just to make it easier, and put 3DR in the end.
3DR ape.
Oh, come on.
Chris Anderson's extravagant video is probably what you should.
No, it's not. It was not so much Chris, but the other guy, the marketing guy, the guy that came from DJI.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I know where we go. I can't remember. It's sad. I've forgotten his name.
Yeah.
No, what was his name, Gary?
Can you tell I'm watching it or trying to watch it?
What was his name? Skydio.
He's
part of Something Partners now. Something Partners. He's got a company called Something Partners.
Colin
Gwynn. Yeah.
He won the amazing race with his wife for those.
Now, he's certainly got the gift of the gab. I don't think he's a bad guy. I've never heard anyone say anything particularly bad about him. I don't think he's a bad person. I think in many ways he's what he's very good at, because it should be remembered, he was CEO of DJI USA. When DJI USA was a separate entity. Yeah, so he clearly, is a force to be reckoned with when he has the ability. I think Skydio have taken on an awful lot of people, a hell of a lot of people. I had a quick catch up with them this week based on some comments I'd made on one of my videos, and I just had a chat with them, and they were simply just talking about the production issues that I'd highlighted, and they're hoping to get on top of that by the end of this year, and they expect to be delivering at much faster pace, which is great news. But as you see in the news, they're taking on people for their industry side of the business. Every other day there's a name that's joined them, isn't there? It's a lot of salaries going out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. got to get the product out, haven't you? There's obviously a tipping point in any business where if you're making a widget maker, you've got to make the number of widgets that you're required to make a profit. That's what you've got to do. Doesn't matter what it is. Got to get it out the door.
I think a lot of this is obviously, a lot of these people are nothing to do with the S2. It's very easy. People think, the standard side of it. All of this is very much related to the X series and their blue UAS plans, and where they go next. Is it the USA or is there more to come from them? That's the question. But as we've seen, how long does the money last?
Oh, we'll get back all the way back to that little. Sorry, Louis, but we'll swing it back to the little autopilot that was killed by flipping ITAR.
Yeah.
Can the Skydio gear is it exempt from ITAR? And if it isn't, then it is the USA, and that's that.
That's that. Yeah, and it's how do you? At the end of the day, we've seen it before. We can love, we can hate some of these companies. Skydio are making an amazing product, but at the end of the day, is there really enough money to be made in drones to warrant the investment we've seen by the venture capital companies? And DJI is the anomaly in the industry. They are not the norm. They have created something very much around themselves that works for them, but no one else has been able to do it to this day. So we keep seeing companies come up. Will there be a path? That's the question.
I believe there is. It will begin on the industrial side of things. And the company that will take over most of the industrial tasks will gain momentum to come to the domestic market. So it will be something like opposite of what we've seen. We've seen a few years ago people that were flying for pleasure, attaching every kind of sensors to a drone and doing some industrial work. But what I believe now is some of those industrial work drones will be carried over to the domestic market because they will be able to have features that will be appealing to the consumers. So that the company that cracks that market will be able to face DJI on their turf.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Post this current situation, all manner of things can happen.
We are on a completely obnoxious situation, random generated and random solution. But after all this is gone, and I don't know. And Gary, you've seen it. The industrial guys are picking up.
Oh,
are taking new business avenues, new workloads to be carried out by drones. Come on, was it on your site that I read today about someone selling 40-something of those?
Yes, I was going to mention that. Yeah, 49 of those new T20 Agresits. I mean, that's got to be a tiny chunk of money, isn't it, really? Sort of 49 T20s. I don't know what they cost. So you got to be anyone got a guess at what they cost? They did say, but I can't remember.
Yeah, they're not cheap. They're not cheap, and especially because they each one comes with their own power generator. But that's another issue. The thing is, how hard would it be for one of those blue SUAS companies to come up with an industrial drone like that? It doesn't have much science around that drone. It has a downward facing 45-degree radar system. It has a specialized pulverization system that you can buy on any hardware store. So it's not very hard. It's just a matter of software because all the hardware is easily available. So those 49s, you could do it the thing is, those 49 drones are a package. So you just buy the entire package. And if you are going to build them, you better get them from someone that is reliable on supply and spares. So no under the stairs DJI under the stairs guy that goes and puts some pieces together, each of each color. So it has to be something.
I use Banggood as my spares department, sort of a thing. Yes.
When speaking of Banggood and AliExpress, have you guys seen the new GPS module that is selling on AliExpress for $20 with L1 and L5? Yeah, Ian,
No.
you're the guy that is always on top.
He's
No,
not
Ian
now.
is not.
He's looks frozen. He's not
He's waiting
listening.
for a comment from his wife.
Yes.
No,
He's not here. He's not with us. He's not with us.
No.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to that. I was reading an article on your website, Gary.
Oh, very good.
Well, there's the first.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the one reader this week. It's the one. It's the one
for
click
this
this
week.
week.
Yes, the one that's excellent.
Sorry, I didn't
yes.
hear any of that at all. Sorry, what was it about?
No. We are just speaking of L1 and L5 GPSs for
Yes.
$20.
Lots of GPSs around these days. I hear Pro is coming through soon. There's lots of GPS. You know, you can get GPS, as you say, Banggood.
Yeah. No. Hold on. L1 and L5.
L5 for $20.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Both
I haven't seen that.
dual band GPS. So
AliExpress or Banggood?
What's that, Mark?
That's a Tier 3.
Got yesterday. Today I bought 2 new UAV CAN GPSs from Maytech.
Is that the one that guy? There was one that the guy said he kept having problems with, and it was him. It might be. I haven't seen. Is that the one out of? It's not in a unit or anything, Louis, is it? It's the one that's. It's a board. If you get my drift, it's a board GPS.
Yeah. And it has the seal of approval by Dr. Andrew Tridgell because he developed the firmware for it. So I'm sure it will work, and I have free support if I run into problems with it.
I need the help of Dr. Andrew Tridgell at the moment because I'm having a problem with bloody servos, and I don't believe it's the servo. I think it's Ardra So
no. It's the operator error. Sorry,
it's not the operator. Oh, it's me. Is it? I'm being blamed. Am I? Is that the error? Is so far it doesn't work, and it's not the servo.
Are you sure you didn't
I can tell you. No. Just come on, Ian. Go to discussardopilot.org and pose your question, and I'm sure I will approve. I will approve your
It's
request.
already there, Louis. I've even talking to the dev team. Don't worry, I've been. To be fair, some of the devs have been I've been trying to get Sid to. Sid's been poking in and out, as has who else posted me today? I've forgotten his name now. I don't like forgetting people's names. He's a very good guy. 2 of the UK guys have been supporting on there as well. So
yeah, Tom.
Yeah, I got it up here. They've probably sent me some abuse today. Don't worry. Let me have a look.
I'm going to fire it up and tell him to give you some abuse.
Yeah, Tom has been messaging me as well on it. So Tom's a great guy. As has our Tridge has posted. He's ignored me, so that's normal. And then Tom Pittinger. Yeah, Tom has been helping out as well. But we still haven't fixed it. But I'm going to have to try some more tomorrow.
Servo.
I'm looking out.
But all the problem is that a lot of the CAN stuff is being rewritten at the moment as well. A lot of improvements around CAN at the moment, isn't there, Louis? A lot of improvements. We've had the compass changes with the last update, which was massive. It's fantastic now. It's brilliant. We like it. It bloody works. Now we've just got to get all of this other peripherals sorted.
That's why, for instance, that Maytech unit is quite interesting because it's running the latest release of ArduPilot PC, which is AP peripheral. So it runs a piece of ArduPilot inside the device itself.
Yeah,
and
it's
quite
actually
interesting. Quite interesting for the plane guys. You can connect an airspeed sensor to the GPS unit as an I2C device, and you can then control it over UAV can. It becomes a barrow, compass, GPS, and a digital airspeed unit, a 4-in-1. You just have to plug in the unit via I2C to the unit. So it's
Nothing
quite
like
an hybrid solution.
in one basket. Eggs
Yeah.
in a basket. Now, Bruce, hang on. Let's see. Bruce has been very quiet. I'm worried. I'm concerned.
He hasn't been arrested recently either, is he?
Oh, that's the sort of thing, you know. It's like he's
slipping.
He's contemplating his arrest or something there.
Just shoring up the barricades. No, I've been doing a lot of homework, as you can probably tell, because who else would want to sit through a 1 hour and 10-minute video from the FAA?
Yeah,
it takes a lot of time. So yeah, I'm in acquisition mode at the moment because that final ruling is going to come out in a month or so, possibly 2 months. And I'm trying to get as much information as I can because I want to do, as soon as it comes out, I want to be able to come back and produce a video that addresses all the issues, problems, and claims that are being made for it, because it's going to be one of the most important pieces of regulation in the entire industry for many years to come. And other countries will look at it and probably pluck the bits they want. So we need to be really prepared for that when it drops.
I couldn't agree more. All of this stuff that's going on that is shocking and surprising some people because they really have had their heads buried in the sand. We've got to start paying attention now and start shouting appropriately. I don't know. Can we shout anymore? Do we even have a say? Everyone's all the big players are in the room now. Thales, British Aerospace. What's the European one called? I can't remember now.
Yes.
Airbus.
Yeah.
Airbus. They're all in the room. It's a worry. It's a big worry now.
Fingers in pies. They're all in the pies already. That's the problem, aren't they?
Well, they're not making any money out of manned aviation, so they thought they'd come and get us.
Exactly. It's just
Well,
the right
that's the
time.
big problem now, isn't it? Yes, that is the big issue. Is the eyes are going to be on how do we make money out of drones quickly because we can't make money out of men. And
that Egan bloke's woken up. That Egan bloke who drops the FAA RID story. Hello, Egan, from LinkedIn as well. I see. That's unusual. Sorry, Ian, after you.
No. I was just saying, as you say, that I think we're going to see a lot more focus, on the drone industry from pilot aviation. You're going to have Captain Tom wanting to fly his Mavic 2 commercially. I've been looking forward to interviewing Captain Tom for a job cleaning the toilets somewhere because that, these look, okay, being serious, there's a huge amount of people who've lost their livelihoods, and we're going to see a lot of people wanting to enter all other industries, and UAS still has that magical pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and no one has ended that. As far as the NQEs are still selling it, some of the biggest training providers in the UK are still selling it,
Well,
especially.
So I was just going to say the most popular thing is, where you ask, when NATPL asks what you want now, he'll generally come out with Big Mac and fries or something as you serve. It serves you, isn't it? I mean, that's generally what they're doing. You're seeing them working all over. A friend of mine, Tian, who flies 330s, I think, or 340s now, hasn't flown since May, and he is. He's on unpaid leave. He's been on unpaid leave since May as an ATPL pilot. It's a run.
I'm pretty sure that all the people who want to make money have been looking at the numbers and going, wow, the drone numbers are much bigger than the manned aviation numbers. We don't have to get so much money out of each one, but if we get a little bit out of all of them, we're going to be rich. So where's our UTM? Let's make rules that force people to use our services. That's the best way. Legislate the extraction of money from pockets. And there's no better way than to get in with regulators and pluck the pockets of people who have no option but to do that or face big fines. And that's where the future of revenue is.
And there's Patrick says it be included in the cell phone data subscription plan, because
They
that's
never
where
give
Ridge,
anything away for free.
that's where Ridge is taking us, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's taken us to that pay to play for each flight, be it model aircraft or.
But I don't have a phone that has a data plan. I don't have any data plan for phone. Are you telling me that I have to, by law, I have to buy a phone that will communicate with a network? I'm not having that. You can't mandate that. In fact, in New Zealand, they've just passed a thing that says because we're all going fibre and because the fibre modems or fibre landlines, voice over IP, are dependent on having power. If the power goes off, then your landline stops working. So the phone companies are going to have to give you a mobile phone that can be used for 111 calls in the case of a power outage. And so I can't see them mandating that you have to have a cell phone to use a drone if they're going to give you one just to dial 111.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Bruce, because the UK, and the only reason I know about this is because for a member of my family, I've been arranging a new broadband connection, and standard landlines are no longer going to be available in the UK. All telephony now goes through the broadband router, and exactly the same warning is now put in place. And in the UK, you have to confirm you own a mobile phone before they'll actually sell you the product now. They're not providing it. They're asking you to confirm you've got a mobile phone where you're able to make emergency calls should you need to, basically. But yeah, we're heading that way in the UK. The standard telephony is gone. It's heading out the door massively.
Ours went 10 years ago when they nicked the wires. But anyway,
I'll tell you something on that. Actually, a guy I know, a very good guy I know, he works for a very large drone company and fantastic man, may or may not be the designer of the Ronin series at a very large manufacturer, was in China this week, and he was showed a picture of broadband speed over 5G at 960 megabytes a second on his phone.
Wow, what's that?
But we won't be getting that
for data plans.
Couldn't make a
for
gigabyte.
data plans.
Yeah,
That
that's
can fill a data plan in rest of a second.
Yes, that's
40
right.
megabytes.
960 meg. It's incredible.
Was that from the new Chinese satellite, I wonder, they launched?
No, I think it'll probably be Huawei ground station equipment, which we won't be having. So we won't be getting it in the UK. We'll get something like half 5G. But it's all on fire anyway, so it won't work. Yeah,
and the problem is here, I don't know about where you are, Ian, but I'm rural Lincolnshire. Although Lincoln's just there, it's still rural. You know, getting a 3G signal or a 4G signal, 5G, forget it. It's going to be absolutely, it's a nightmare.
Everybody is so gung-ho. Oh, 5G this, 5G that. Come on, if you don't get 2G today on somewhere, forget it. It won't be 5G that will sort out the solution. And due to the frequencies that 5G uses, the number of antennas that all providers will have to put is quite massive. It's quite so we'll be breaking down to 4G or 3G or 2G very, very, very fast.
Well, what is it? Over the UK, we're going to get those planes that circle, aren't we, and give us our...
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's it. That's it.
That's it. And I think when we get Starlink in the UK, Elon Musk's system, anyone that's rural, and the same for you as well, Gary, I should think, if you can ever get Starlink system, you will be laughing.
What, you mean from the South African space program that's currently put people on the ISS and is launching the South African Starlink program? Yeah.
I thought they just had it. I thought all they had was a very tall ladder.
No, Starlink it is current. Well, it would just blow. I don't know how many users it can accept, but it blows any data plan, the cheapest data plan you can get in this country. It blows it out the water.
I think they started deploying, but it's not the very cheap option that was touted.
Well,
so apparently it's not very cheap.
It is compared to standard satellite links,
if you're talking, I think it's $100 in it, isn't it, in America? So it's $100. But if you pay $100 in America, you pay more like 120, and you'll be looking to get 5 or 10 megabits in the rural countryside. They can't get anywhere near the speed. So to them, Starlink, it just opens up. And of course, if you have it it means all your neighbours could just Wi-Fi link into you. You could become a hub, because it's amazing. 70 megabyte, what is it? 75 megabits, 100 megabits. I've seen. It's incredible.
It's great, and now we can't see the stars either. Those pesky twinkling things on lovely evenings. It's great. It's wonderful.
I could never go back to 100 megabits. That's terrible. It's so slow, says the man with gigabit internet.
Oh, I've got fibre here. I've got Virgin cable here, and I tell you what, it's brilliant download, but it's absolutely shocking upload. The worst thing about all internet in the UK is our upload rate is absolutely crap. I would rather have 25 meg down and 25 meg up.
Come on,
I've got
you guys don't have anything interesting to say to the world, so it's good that the uplink is not that good. Look at Ian's channel; he doesn't publish any videos any longer.
But I agree with Mark, because my uplink's only 400 megabits. It's terrible. It's so slow.
I've
I'm
retired.
on a 4 meg line, a 4 meg line, you sods. 4.
What is a 4 meg line? What does it cost?
$110 a month.
So $110. So if you could get Starlink for $100, then
it'd be better. Yeah, it would be all round better. Yeah, it's
We're pretty lucky here. We've got a kind of rural environment. We've got a thing called the Rural Broadband Initiative, which uses 3G and 4G. And you get about 40, 50 megabits download and about 20 megabits upload through that. And there's some quite good price packages. For $100, you can get like 200 gigabyte data cap, which is pretty good.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, it just isn't here. And we had, a couple of weeks ago, we had 15 hours of no internet. It's not unusual to have an hour or two of no internet. It just happens. And we sort of had a local rural initiative for our speed up of the line, because they put the main the fibre lands in Durban and runs up the highway to Johannesburg, and the local farmers here told them, best you tap that, and there's no tap. We've got the only tap between 500-600 kilometers. Best you tap that and let us locals have some of that, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of faults with that cable.
How do they know? Are they clairvoyant or something?
No, because not only are they excellent farmers, they're very good telecommunications engineers as well.
They're very good at finding issues.
All the lions, they would put some meat in the top of the poles, and all the lions would climb to get to the fiber. So
yeah, well, it's been a while since we've had lions around here, but our fixed telephones went. We don't have them. Phone lines have been stolen for about 50 kilometers all around here. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of phone lines just gone, and the road where I live, even the poles have gone now, because quite a few people have quite handy. Those poles are quite handy if you want to make something in the garden, and they've all blown over. There was a big hurricane involving chainsaws, and all the poles are gone as well. So it would cost far too much. And those poles have been around since when the telephones arrived here. That's the crazy thing. They survived that long. And I am going on a bit, but even just down the road from me, when they come and steal the lines, they even bring along a trailer with a wire stripping machine, and it pulls, because they ended up putting them in great big bundles with plastic casing, and all the up and down the road everywhere you can still see the casings in the field and on the edge of the road, where they've come along and stripped them out and taken on the copper, wound it onto a drum. Where I used to live, a chap actually saw him doing it, and he just hid. He didn't dare come out because we've got armed guys there. So if you come out and give them trouble, they'll just thank you for it with some lead. So yeah, so we don't have telephone lines here.
Oh.
We don't have telephone. Anyway, that was a rant. Sorry.
We don't have normal problems over with me. Just they steal everything and set it on fire. It's all fine. There's nothing to worry about.
Well, that's Welsh tradition, isn't it? Especially if it's come out from England, you set fire to it, whatever it is.
Saying that, where's your fire this week?
My fire?
Where?
Which fire?
Gary should have a fire this week. Where is it?
No, we haven't had a fire this week. Well, it's summer's here, so a little bit of rain. It's our rainy season now in the summer, so much harder. But I've had leaks. I had a big leak which I've done with some more work on in our
Welsh leaks.
pipe. Not those ones. But yeah, no. Thankfully, we're out of fire season. Thankfully, touch wood. No, won't need to worry about that again for a while. Now, look, we are definitely ranting around. Have we seen any more news before we depart? Going once, going twice. Now, I'm not sure about this new view of Ian. Oh, I see why now, because we can just see the chair's logo.
No, sorry. The problem is if I take that off, if I put the camera,
wind him up and away he goes. Here he goes.
You don't want to.
He's got no room anymore. He's bought all this gear and there's no room to put it, so he's crammed into a tiny little corner with all these cameras and boom mics.
Everything's a bloody mess right now. That's the problem. I've been working on just trying to get some equipment and stuff. Look at the state of the bench.
There's a spider.
It's nothing. It's nothing. My bench. You can't see my bench. You can't even see where my bench used to be.
No. To be fair, it's a mobile phone case for a 12-year-old mobile phone. Anyone need that? So,
You need to make an FPV camera system.
I've been doing a lot of testing this week, and it's, like all things when you're testing new stuff, none of it's really working, which is always good fun. I've taken a bit of time out of putting out too much content at the moment. It's been a weird period, so I've decided to take a bit of a step back. I got some stuff I want to finish, but I'm still trying to finish some other projects off, really, more than anything at the moment. I might go to one video a year instead of one a week. I think if you're going to make bad content, you may as well make bad content less often. I think it's the right.
Look forward to and have like cinema openings and all that sort of.
No. It's good. No, one video a year, as bad as it is now. That's the way to do it. It's the production value remains the same.
And that's our Christmas present.
That's your Christmas present. So
worked well for me all these years. Worked well for me.
Yeah, no, it's been very busy. So there's a lot going on, and there's some little projects. I've turned a lot of stuff down. Do you know about you, Bruce? I've had a lot of people reaching out, and I've turned down an awful lot of stuff. An awful lot of stuff. You just think, sorry, but I haven't got time for that.
Oh, do you know what happened? But before we go, I'll tell you what, another little ranted story. But last Saturday was the first Saturday since March that we've been able to buy alcohol here. Our alcohol restriction finished last Friday. So I do worry. I see people protesting about restrictions and this and that around the world. You don't know you're born. You don't know you're born.
Yeah, so you'll have saved enough to get a great big magnum of Cristal, right?
If only I knew what that was. Probably,
it's a
yes.
champagne. It's very expensive.
Probably, yeah. No, so yeah, just an aside. And with that aside, any more, gentlemen? Do we know anything else? Going once, going twice. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for spending and bothering to take some time with us. And if you have bothered to take some time with us, perhaps you need to go and seek medical advice. Hopefully we'll see you again next week, 2100 GMT, and I will be roughly doing some news sometime in the day. Thanks very much for being here. Be safe, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.